man, I can't stand Tom. Can someone just please put a bag over his head? Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, podcast about anime, games, news. I don't know. This is going to be one of our shorter episodes, so it's going to be a little weird this time around. And with me, the man who loves Dune so much that he always walks without rhythm. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's a double. That's like a double. What do you call that? That's a double reference. Um,
Yes, it's not an entendre. That's
it's
something else.
that's yeah, it's a double reference. Yeah, I do love to. That's such a good one that it threw me off. I do love to walk without rhythm, so as not to attract the worm.
Oh
Um,
man,
and Did you see that Super Bowl commercial of where everyone's doing their Christopher Walken impression to Christopher
yeah,
Walken? That's pretty funny.
yeah. Then he's in the restaurant, and it was an usher walks away, and he does the dance like right when he's going up the stairs.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That
pretty
was
good.
pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Joe. I was gonna say something. Oh, I remember now. So you have not flubbed the opening in a while. I don't think people are usually going to see that, but for a while there, about every other one, you would flub the opening. We'd have to restart, but you haven't done that in a while. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. You're doing good.
It's the energy drinks beforehand. Usually, we're also doing it like the dead of night, and I've
Mm,
at the end of the week where I'm just exhausted, and so yeah, it's just like if I'm not taking like I'm like I'm gonna pound an energy drink, and then when their cast is done, I'm gonna stay up for like the next 4 hours and get up in like two with my kids, and it's just like this is gonna be next Saturday mornings are terrible.
mm. Well, I'm
But yeah,
I'm sorry you have to do that. I'm glad you take one for the team though on those. Um, that's
no, we're doing pretty good though. This is a little off for us because we're doing it only 1 week after our last recording. So we're just going to do a little bit about the news, and that's really about it. We're just going to keep it short, simple. Uh, Allegedly, and we'll see how long we ramble. We tend to
Yeah,
do
we
so.
will, we will see, but yeah. So since you already mentioned news, I'll just go ahead and jump into it. So there was a little bit of extra news this past week that seemed kind of interesting to me. Biggest thing is PlayStation is laying off around 900 people worldwide. That's about 8% of their workforce. And kind of the biggest chunk of that, I guess, or the biggest part in that is they're closing their London studio. And yeah, so it's Microsoft had layoffs not too long ago. Seems to be an industry thing kind of going on right now. Um, so I don't know. It just kind of struck me as sort of like, oh, that's kind of, you kind of think of PlayStation as being sort of high and mighty, kind of being kings of the space right now, but yeah, they are, they're not doing the best. I guess they're not doing as good as we think that they are. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. Well, it's always unfortunate to have to close down a studio. In this case, the London studio, they're pretty popular for like their, I think their SingStar games, stuff like that. But the most recent one that I can remember that was of note was PlayStation VR. They did the Blood and Truth, which was the full length game of the heist, mini showcase.
yeah.
And Blood and Truth was pretty good. And I know a lot of people were hoping for a PSVR 2 port because that would be amazing.
By
And
people, you mean
unfortunately,
you?
yeah, though, yeah, like the 12 of us who own PSVR 2s. But no, it was one of those things that the game was a lot of fun, and I think it could have been most definitely improved upon with the new, especially with the new tech and the haptics and stuff like that. So it was like one of those things that'd be great if they did it, and the chances are is really slim now, like
Yeah,
all but evaporated. So
yeah. I hope this doesn't kill their VR, ambitions or whatever. I hope that that's still, maybe not front and center, but higher up.
mm.
I
Actually, that should be fine. It was just a few games that they did that was VR related out of London studio. It was
okay, yeah.
in fact it just had passed the
Uh,
1 year anniversary of PSVR 2 coming out. So Sony did, they didn't do an official like video. They just did a blog post being like, here's some stuff. And, one of the big things from that was they have the wording on it is really weird. And I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but they have some sort of plans, more or less, I'm paraphrasing, to have a like PC integration with PSVR 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation what that means. What like
Oh,
can I
that's
just hook
interesting.
up my PSVR 2 to the thing? Is there going to be a an app I got to download like this?
That is a
It's
very interesting prospect, honestly, because it's like then they've already got PlayStation games coming over, or PlayStation Studio, whatever games coming over to PC. If they can also get their VR machine on someone's PC that they already have, then that's a toe in the door, and that's like one step closer to getting someone to actually buy a PlayStation or just buy more PlayStation games. That's kind of
well, one of
interesting.
the hardest things for the PSVR is it's all run by single USB-C. That's the cable. So you'd have to then have an HDMI to like USB-C like splitter.
Yeah.
So because that way you can get video and then audio and everything through. Because unfortunately, most graphics cards they no longer come with a USB-C like to video port.
I see.
So you're gonna have to. So we'll have to get some sort of adapter dongle for a PC. My thought would be they're just trying to let you play your PlayStation VR games on the PC, just to open up that a little extra sales there. Ideally, it would mean that you'd be able to play like most PC games, PC VR games on your PS VR 2, but
Yeah.
like that's hoping for too much. But the slight hope is though, if so long as you can get it to kind of happen just a little bit, then people then backdoor their way in and like hack or like jailbreak the
Yeah.
unit. So it's one of those things that there's a lot of speculation.
Well, he made me think of something because it's like, okay, so the I didn't forget the freaking name of that stupid thing. The thing that they just released that's
The Portal.
is it called a Portal, PlayStation Portal?
Yep.
So they got the Portal out, and if they allow you to play games, PlayStation games or whatever, through VR on your PC, I'm just kind of thinking like what are they really trying to do here? And it seems sort of like they're trying to backdoor their way into every room in your house. So it's like you've got the PlayStation in the living room, but you can't play that all the time because there's family is going to want to use the main TV. So you can play it in your room while the family is using, like mom and dad usually using the TV, and or Big Bro has his own PC and he can play VR in his room on his computer. Little Bro's playing on the Portal while mom and dad are watching TV, or extra Big Brother or dad is playing. Well, I guess maybe couldn't work all three of those, but I'm just saying like it just I'm just saying like the commonality here seems to be they're trying to get in more rooms in your house is what I'm saying here.
Well, ideally, as a company, just like Microsoft, you want your games to be able to be played on the most available platforms around, and to be able to access stuff on PC. I mean, Microsoft's been doing that for a while, and then obviously we're getting success with Sony. I mean, look at Helldivers coming out on both PC and the PS5. So in that aspect, if you can somehow get the PSVR 2 hooked up to the PC, just at the very least, so to let people who have a nice computer, but they don't actually own a PS5, uh, the PSVR 2 is actually a really decent piece of kit.
Yeah.
The only problem is for someone going straight into it from the outside, you have to buy a PS5 and buy a PS VR 2, and
Right.
that's really expensive. That's where the barrier to entry is
That's
out of
like
control
$1,200 bucks.
if
Yeah.
you just want VR. But if you already have a computer, and you're comparing it to other headsets, I mean, like you're looking at the Quest, the Meta 3, Quest 3, whatever that is a solid unit as by itself as well. But there's things it does better, and there's things that it doesn't do as good as the PSVR 2. PSVR 2 has really cool haptics, the triggers, the headset vibration, the OLED lenses. So there's some of that. Granted, the lenses are different. Not worse, but just different. Like it's a lateral move,
Yeah.
because they're pancake lenses and they offer different functionality. But you have eye tracking and stuff like that for PlayStation. So once again, there's reasons to play either. Now, if you can only play your PlayStation VR games on the PSVR headset on the PC, but also it lets you play other games like say Half-Life Alyx, because that's still arguably one of the best VR experiences out there. From it's like that's what PSVR 2 owners really want is like, hey, can we get
Yeah.
Alex? Like, can we get it? Like, can you make something happen? But it's chances are Steam's not going to budge. Steam's not going to they don't want to have a Steam client on the PlayStation more than likely.
Which is
But
kind of
Steam's
weird.
more than willing to take PlayStation games on their on their client, so because they'll get a cut of that.
Yeah. I guess yeah, I guess if they were on, if they had a client or whatever on Sony's PlayStation, they would be paying Sony money to Sony in that regard. I feel like you could work it out. I feel like you could do
They've
something,
done it
but
in the past with the Orange Box,
yeah.
but that's the one that's the one time that I can remember, at least in recent years. And so after that, they're like, yeah, it's kind of it's that relationship has kind of been dead in the water.
Yeah.
So as
Mm.
far as that goes on console front, and we're hoping that like I said, there's a lot of people people jump into some wild speculations. They're like,
Well,
Sony's just going to open it up, and like they are not just going to open it up.
nah.
Like
I,
they do not just want people to play. Like if you can buy a game on multiple platforms, chances are it'll be cheaper on Steam. you know,
yeah.
uh,
Uh,
they'd rather have you go through Sony themselves.
Big
Uh,
moves are very they can't like a big company like that cannot make giant like we're just gonna give all of our freaking games to like the PC. No, they're not gonna do that. That could backfire very very badly. That could sink a company or at least put them very far behind everybody else. So yeah, people just don't understand. I mean, I'm not like a king of business over here or anything, but my goodness, people think about these things in business terms. They're going to move slowly and carefully. Um, Other thing I wanted to say about this layoff, PlayStation layoff, is you remember seeing that picture that was going around Reddit of Jim Ryan uh, visiting the London studio? Well, I didn't realize that he was English, so it kind of makes sense that he was at the London studio. Um, and
but
then
he visited the week before. Yeah,
yeah, so it's kind of like that's sort of less that's less weird to me. It would have been more weird for him not to, say hi or whatever. And then also, I just saw this as I was perusing the news. I looked back at some older news. So 5 months ago, Jim Ryan said he's retiring. So he's retiring, and now the London studio is closing. I mean, it kind of. I'm not saying like there's a conspiracy or anything like that, but it's like okay, it makes sense. They probably knew that there's going to be some layoffs coming,
well,
or
usually
whatever.
when you close a big branch, you're gonna talk. Things like that are best to said in person. They probably talk to the higher ups of the office because that makes the most sense. Be like,
Yeah,
hey, here's what's gonna happen. This is about to unfold. Be prepared.
yeah,
And because you got to let you just most of the time if it's just out of the blue and the entire office doesn't know about it, that's usually a very weird thing. It's usually, yep, all the management knew, or at least the ones who the key figures
they
did,
have to.
HR,
Yeah,
stuff like that. And then, anyone else below a certain pay grade, they obviously will get caught blindsided. But that's kind of how it has to roll out. And it's just that's why people were just shocked and be like, no, that's actually quite common. That is very common
yeah.
to have higher ups
I'm.
notify.
I was just wondering if because he's retiring, if there's just not enough support for like a London studio there. If the main guy over PlayStation in that area. I can't remember exactly what he rules over. But if he's retiring, it's like, do we really need this London studio? No, we're kind of just keeping it open because they're making stuff, but it's also so Jim Ryan can have a place to to come to the office and do stuff or whatever.
Well,
If
I
he's
mean, if
not
you
there
look at
anymore,
their most recent games,
yeah,
they haven't really come out with a lot of note a lot of note in the most recent years. So
yeah,
it's kind of one of those things that like it's not surprising. It is surprising because it's been around for a while. That's the thing. It's like um but I believe Sony closed one of their Japanese studios as well, like for a long time ago, like or a
Okay.
handful of years ago now, which was even more surprising at the time. I forget which one exactly, but anyways, it's just
Yeah.
it sucks, and it's a common trend, and it's still going, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's more news about that. I think you have here.
Yeah. The last thing about that, I guess specifically, is that Sony is also going to be closing, or they're also going to be reducing the workforce on Insomniac Games, Naughty Dog, Gorilla, and PlayStation's, and also their technology, creative, and support teams. So those are going to be kind of reduced a little bit. Gorilla put out a notice today or a couple days ago that they're going to be reducing the workforce by like 10%. Um, and then there's also a bunch of games that are unnamed games that are getting canceled, which makes sense. One of the bigger ones that people are talking about is there's an online co-op game that was supposed to be set in fantasy London. It wasn't really. It was just kind of teased. But since the London studio is closing, that one's probably going to get canceled, along with some other stuff. So I'm sure that the stuff that's being canceled will be, you know, the the bones of those games will be used in other games if there's anything usable there. But yeah, so it kind of it's just kind of par for the course. All of that, once a company doesn't really make the margin that the revenues that they're looking for, which we reported on a little while ago, um, it just follows suit that heads are going to kind of have to roll a little bit.
Yeah, it's it unfortunately, like I said, Microsoft just went through the downsizing. I mean, every major company seems to be going through downsizing.
Yeah,
It's the fallout from the recession, and the fact that a lot of the since the pandemic, everyone's now free to go about and live their
yeah,
lives.
it's a
They're not
lot.
trapped inside their houses.
Yeah, when
You
you have
know,
to compete with like the nice weather, for year in and year out, and doing other stuff, concerts, people doing stuff together that don't involve games, it's a little bit harder. Yeah. Yeah.
so all right, yeah. So like I said, hopefully, these people, those who I know a lot of the games industry tries to reach out and help each other out here, but since it's happening so across the board, hopefully people land on their feet in one form or another. The biggest
Yeah.
hope is like some of these talented people end up making indie games, right? And
Yeah.
we'll get some really cool, smaller, titles, and maybe a whole new wave of stuff will come out. That's the biggest hope, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
as long as I've been following the games industry, if I ever got into the games industry in any capacity whatsoever at all, I would always have my foot out the door. Not to be like mean or whatever, but like I would always be looking for something else, even and open to like keep that resume dusted off and up to date. Is all I'm saying. If you're in the games industry, because layoffs are very, very common.
Yeah. It's that's what networking is all about for them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why hopefully they have friends that can help, you know, in any capacity. But all right, do you got any better news for us?
No, not really. um, I guess we could talk about um, Fire Sprite. You kind of you had
Oh
something
wow,
about this. You want to talk
that's
about
not
that?
even like no.
That's not worth
I
it. I
just
would talk about.
it's more or less it was just uh Fire Sprite Games. They ended up they're the ones behind Call of the Mountain, or Horizon Call of the Mountain
Oh,
PSVR
okay, yeah,
2. They too are having some losses, but apparently there's been quite a few articles talking about like the one I got from Eurogamer has a decent article just talking about how uh, the the staff had more or less started leaving because of a toxic workforce. And
yeah. I think
it's
the
a worthwhile article to go ahead and read.
I think the quote from that
Um,
was "death by 1,000 cuts." So apparently they were doing stuff that was just like probably like one time. Oh, that's not so bad, but like over and over and over again, and just making people want to leave. Yeah. So
And yeah, it's unfortunate. It's the games industry seems to be. You think they would learn more about that by now, but unfortunately, the workspace is still kind of immature in a lot of ways, uh, based off of the higher ups, I guess, and the mentality of going into a gaming industry, being like thinking it's one thing. I don't know. Hopefully things will get better on that front too. But yeah, just unfortunately, it's been a week of bad news. It really has.
there's been plenty to go around, and it's not stopping now. So Rockstar, I don't know if this is really bad news exactly. Rockstar is has a return to office mandate that's going to trigger in April, I think it said. And they're citing the reason that they're doing that is because they're citing productivity and security concerns. So security concerns, I definitely understand because they have had some pretty high profile breaches recently. And who's I don't know, I don't remember exactly the details of those breaches, but so it's hard to say whether or not working from home or whatever is really linked to that at all. But I can see how it would be. I can see how it would you just have a lot more security holes when everybody's house is essentially a security risk. But the productivity concerns back when the pandemic was first popping off and everybody was working from home that first year, I remember seeing articles left and right being like, the news is in, the figures are in, there's no loss in productivity from working from home. And I was kind of like, huh, okay. And now everything I see is the opposite. It's like, oh no, people don't do anything. People don't work at all from home. Um,
Unfortunately, it's a lot of people have abused that system. It's just like, well, if I'm being monitored, all I have to do is make sure I wiggle my mouse enough, or like my screen shows like my Teams shows that I'm still active and I'm not away.
yeah, while
Uh,
you play on your phone or do whatever. And I mean, I can definitely see how, yeah, like people are gonna screw off or whatever. But so it's just funny to me because whenever whenever it was new and I guess convenient, and like society needed people to work from home, people were very quick to articles and research was very quick to say, oh yeah, we need to definitely work from home. And now it's like, hey, that was never a good idea.
See, that
Um,
was the thing is in the beginning, it was a lot of anti vibes on that one too, though, because it was
yeah,
just like, no, it's and a lot of people were predicting, negative work like production. But the thing is, when it comes to now making people come back to the office. The key, like the majority of the reasons for that, I honestly think is yes, you need to have accountability, especially when you are working on a project. It's not like you're doing clerical work where you're responding to emails or something like that, because you can do that in or out of an office if you're just like
yeah,
if you're just a tech support or something like that, a help center, because if there's nothing for you to actually physically do in person, and if it's you're looking at a computer and only doing it like in that respect, like, well, if I'm only responding to an email, I can do that at home just as well as I can from the office. But if I'm actually going to be on a team working on a project, I have to have accountability. That in most major companies, they are renting they own a space or they're renting a space.
yeah,
They're paying bills, they're paying internet, and electricity and all this stuff for a facility that isn't being used.
yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's going out the window. And it's like, yeah, personally,
Because
I would
those,
prefer to work from home all the time and I'm like, yes, I will eat the electric cost. I will eat the personal internet cost from working from home,
yeah.
all that stuff, because I would rather not do the daily commute. The
Oh
commute
yeah, that's
alone,
worth, yeah,
like that, the amount of time I save, and the fact that I can just be done, like the moment I clock out, I just turn around and I'm in, like I can go to my living room. Uh,
yeah,
that is a huge time saver and a huge stress relief. I
yeah.
mean, uh,
Those
it's like,
like those contracts, those building contracts and all that stuff, those lasted a lot longer than COVID. So I mean, it was probably always, I mean, I think all that this was always going to happen. I do think that that companies were exposed a little bit um, with COVID being like, hey, we can actually work from home. We can actually order groceries online and just pick them up. We could, like, there's a lot of stuff that's like, hey, we can actually do this. Maybe we shouldn't do it all the time, but a lot of big corporations, had everyone sort of believing, no, you can't really do that. No, can't really do that. When push came to shove, you could a little bit. And I think some kind of hybrid system for maybe not brand new cadet employees is probably best. I think like a 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whatever. I think that's completely reasonable. If for no other reason than like the commute, goodness gracious, like you save so much time by not having to drive into work. A lot of people do, a lot of people, especially a lot of people own homes that the only place they can afford to buy a home is, not near work, which is in like a metropolitan area. So they have to commute if they're going to own a home. It just makes sense to have some sort of hybrid system. But I do think too that like, yeah, productivity. I'm more productive at the office. Um, it just seems to be human nature in one shape, in one form or another.
It's I think it's the fact that you have more of a hierarchy and accountability. Like when you have
There's
a
just a vibe.
superior around the corner.
It's just like, I mean,
See,
like,
I have a higher risk of getting HR complaints because I'm going to yell at someone to shut the hell up at work than I would when I'm just yelling at a computer screen, being like, Tom, you're an idiot, and I can't believe I can't believe it.
sorry, Tom.
How are you allowed to breathe the same oxygen? But luckily, I'm not in the same room because I'm at home and no one's listening to me because I'm just yelling at my screen, opposed to having to bite my lip and my blood pressure going up and me being like whispering to another coworker, being like, "Man, I can't stand Tom. Can someone just please put a bag over his head?" It's just that would get me in trouble, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But
I
that's the
mean,
thing. It's just like some people work better around others. For me and my team, I mean, we talk like we type everything we did is typed out anyways.
yeah.
So like we don't even like talk to each other over our cubicles half the time. It's just like everything's done.
I mean, all that
Via
stuff is
computer. So
certainly a factor, but to me, like there's just kind of a vibe. There's like a thing with like getting up. I don't have a long commute to work, but like getting up, getting dressed, driving to work, coming inside, uh, and setting up, and that there's like that. From that point, I just have like a, hey, I'm gonna do stuff mentality.
I mean,
Um,
but as far as working, as far as like I said, it's just like my spouse ended up working at a new job, and after they were a hybrid system, and then she got done with her training period. And after the training period, they're like, yeah, we roll out a new policy. We're no longer doing the hybrid system because too many people abused it.
yeah.
And it was like, wow, that was a huge reason why I wanted to work here, was because of the
Oh
hybrid
yeah, I
system. And
do
now
kind of
there's no
remember you
hybrid
saying
system.
that. Yeah, yeah, that's a nice,
But
nice little rug
because
pull.
enough people, yeah, well, enough people were caught not doing anything. And for me, on the other hand, I was on point. I was always like, because I don't have any sound effects on my computer at work because I really hate to hear other people's phones go off or beeping and stuff.
Dings.
So,
Yeah.
but at home, I can have my notifications go off and it's not going to bother anyone else. So I can be in the kitchen grabbing myself a cup of coffee, and I can hear hear an email come in. I'm like, sweet, all right, I can jump on that right away. And when I'm down, I'm like, you know what? I'll just, I can literally browse my phone or browse the internet without concern about anyone being upset about what I'm reading. But as far as a company that's like Rockstar, you have to have, uh, I mean, they are really good about keeping their ship keeping a tight ship. Like they don't allow a lot of leaks. Usually you don't find out a lot of information ahead of time. It's actually pretty amazing how quiet they can be. And so for them, that is more necessary than other companies, you find out all their secrets beforehand. You find out the whole roadmap, the whole story plot of their
Yeah.
game. It's all been leaked beforehand, but Rockstar's usually always really good about keeping that stuff real quiet.
Or for smaller companies, like nobody cares. Like a smaller games that nobody knows about, like nobody cares. No one's really looking for it. But like Rockstar, whatever Rockstar's doing, whatever GTA 6, that is like world news. If anything gets out about that, so yeah, they are definitely more. They're more into. They have a lot more security concerns than your regular video game mom and pop company. So yeah, it's one of those things. Some people are worried about it leading to crunch. It's certainly a concern, but I think they really do just need to tighten the ship up on productivity and security. I think if anything, I think everyone's going to be on a hair trigger for crunch there, and I think that if they do have that kind of stuff, it won't be very long before developers, employees and stuff are like saying, "Hey, cut this stuff out." I fully expect that to be reported quickly if it happens, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right.
The
And
last little bit of
yeah, what
news.
else you got?
The last little bit of news here is Embracer Group is trying to sell Saber Interactive and KOTOR, the KOTOR remake, along with it for $500 million, which sounds like a lot to me for that. I mean, KOTOR remake is going to be probably a big deal, but that seems like a lot even for that. So Embracer Group, they own THQ Nordic, and then either they own a bunch of these, or either Embracer Group owns a bunch of other developers, or THQ Nordic that they owns them. I forget how it works, but basically, Embracer Group is they own a lot of studios, and back a couple years ago when they were buying them all up, people, you and me and other podcasters, I think, were like, "Hey, they're doing a lot of buying here of things, and not a lot really going on. I mean, some stuff for sure, but that's a lot of buying there, and it seems like it might have ended up being a little bit too much. Um, I mean, if they're trying to sell one of their bigger, franchises, it seems like it might be they might have bit off a bit more than they could chew."
Yeah, I can't really remember too much of what Saber's done that's been very notable of late. I know they've done some small stuff. Like I think they're tied to that Evil Dead game that came out a little while ago. That's like the 4v1 or something like that. But it's unfortunately I don't really recall too much of anything of note of recent years. So I can see them trying to sell them off, but I'm trying to think of anything else. It's like now I didn't realize KOTOR was under them, so or like oh well Embracer umbrella, but I said Embracer is one of the major players, so it's you can easily say like them or throw a few other names. Them, Microsoft, Tencent, one of them will own probably a property that you're
they
interested in.
they probably
Uh,
own the company you're working for right now.
yeah, so
I
yeah, it's but no, I mean
I'm
it's
pretty sure Tencent
we'll see.
owns me. I think they have like 1% of my kidney or something like that.
Well, they owned a lot of they took a lot of your time from back in your League of Legends days, don't they? So
They didn't own it back then. They might have owned a little bit of it back then. Yeah, so I think they did actually own a little bit of it back then. So yeah, they it's insane how much Tencent owns. They have their fingers in a lot of pies. Let me tell you what. Anyway, so that's going on. That's kind of shoring up the end of the news there. Um, yeah, you've been watching anything recently? Anything you want to talk about, or because I've got a show that I started watching, but I wanted to see if you had anything.
I mean, it's more or less all the same stuff before as far as the
Okay.
anime front goes. We're talking about here. It's just like first, we got still Undead Unluck is still going pretty solid.
Mm.
You have the wrong way to use healing magic. We're coming close to the end of Furen. Furen's coming.
It's
I think it's 28 episodes this season,
yeah,
or so. Um,
and they're on like
you
25 or
know,
26 now, right? Something like that.
yeah. Then Sasaki and Peeps, that's still still doing solid. Yeah, I mean there's some decent stuff this season. It's not been a disappointing one at all. But nothing new of really worth noting.
Yeah.
That's really been standout for me.
I've
Yeah.
been
How about
watching
yourself?
some different anime that I will talk about at a future date. But when I'm not watching anime, Brooklyn Nine-Nine has just come to Netflix, and I've always wanted to watch that show. And now
We got you on that when you were here because
yeah, I probably would have been like, yeah, whenever I was up visiting you turned it on just kind of randomly to have something in the background. And I was like, dang, I forgot how good of a show this was. But so if that hadn't happened and it did come to Netflix, I probably would have just passed over and watched something else. But I was like, I should really jump on it, and so started watching from episode one. Um, and it's I think I'm on like episode 9 or something like that of the first season. It's pretty good. I mean, I always knew it was good, but it's pretty good. Cute little show. I'm excited to see where it goes after all these years. So yeah, that's that. And then they just released an Avatar: The Last Airbender live action on Netflix, and it's I haven't started watching it. Netflix wants me to though, wants me to real bad. And it is like the number one show on Netflix. At least it has been all week. So I don't know. I feel like people have always talked about The Last Airbender and how freaking great it is, and you should always watch. You should watch it. And the cartoon, and now I'm just like, I don't know if I can sit here and not have watched the cartoon and actually watch the live action TV show. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
It's actually probably the right way to do it, because it's like watching the movie then reading the book. You want to do so. From everything that the quick like Reddit posts that I've seen is it's not as bad as the live action movie. It's better
Mm,
than live action movie, but it's not as good as the animated. Well, considering the fact that it's highly regarded as one of the best like animated cartoons, like
it shows,
Western
yeah.
cartoons, period, and it's one of the worst movies of all time, like live action movies of all time. The fact that it's in between, okay. I
I saw
mean,
that. I saw that live action in theaters because my friend wanted to see it, and he liked Avatar a lot, and he was like, "Let's go see it." And I was like, "All right." And so we went and saw it, and I was like, "That sucked." And he was like, "Yeah, the show is way better." And I was like, "Whatever, dog." And I
I tried watching. I've like 10 minutes, 15 minutes most tops. Considering the fact that they got the names wrong, and you have a TV show. Not you know, it's not like it's a comic book. You have a TV show that has all the names pronounced for you, and
mm,
then in the live action movie, you can't say those names correctly. That's where I was like, nope, I'm
and
checking out.
like
I cannot hear.
I think like M Night Shyamalan was involved with that.
Oh yeah, no, that's what tanked his that was like the like the last
Wow.
nail in the coffin. And it's like his career for a while, because then
Damn.
his big comeback was that Will Smith, Jaden Smith, father son space duo movie, and that didn't do well either. Uh,
He's done some other stuff recently,
no, the
but
but his career
it
like
has,
stopped for a good
yeah,
while.
it was pretty slow. I think they probably were hand to mouth in the
No, he's
Shyamalan
done some really good
household.
stuff. Yeah, M Night's done some good stuff since, but like for a hard while, it's just like, yep, he's dead. But no, the as far as I'll say this: I'm a big fan of the animated show. It's not as I think it's a time and place thing. When you're
Yeah.
younger, if like I said, if you're in high school or fresh out of high school and you're watching it for the first time, especially back then, it was more pivotal. Like it impacted you more. I didn't actually see it until like I think I was in my mid 20s, early mid 20s.
Mm.
But it was still really good. Uh, it was a little rushed at the end, and I will be the even though I like it, I'll still be the one to point out a lot of the flaws. And so like that's kind of where I stand. I'm like it is worth the watch. It is a good show. Um I'm one of the few people who am not a big fan of the second series, Legend of Korra. Like the
Mm.
first season is solid. Every season after that gets continuously worse, in my opinion. And that's kind of how I felt because I had such high hopes. The first season was really
You talking about the Legend of
pretty good.
Korra?
Yeah, the
Oh,
Legend of Korra.
okay.
So the second series,
How many series?
and
How many seasons did that go? Two or three, four?
3 or 4. It's
Okay.
been a while. I think it's 4. It's 3 for the first, which should have been 4 seasons in my opinion. And I think that's part of the reason why The Last
Oh,
Airbender is not as good as it could have been. And I think they just kind of dropped the ball. Like they like I don't know. It's anyways the first seasons of the Legend of Korra is good. After that, you progressively get worse in my opinion. Um,
yeah.
and the show, it's not for me. I don't want the show, so I don't care. And it's not a big loss. So I'm not gonna watch it. I don't have Netflix anymore, and I'm
Yeah.
not gonna go out of my way. So
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm kind of tempted to watch it and report back. I don't know. It
Well,
remains
now
to
you
be
got to
seen.
do a whole expose. You got to watch the whole series, and then you got to then watch the animated, and then get back to us on that.
And I'll come back and say the live action is better.
I want to see you shave your head and then have a big tattoo.
Uh,
Um,
way ahead of you. I got
I
the
mean, hey,
clippers
this
right
this
here.
May we got Anime Central in Chicago here. You can
Hmm.
come you can cosplay. There you go.
Cosplay, yeah, as a firebender. I think I look like some of those people, right?
All right. On that note, thanks
uh,
for watching another Dead Pixel. This has been a shorter episode, so we're gonna do this for a little bit. We'll try to do a weekly cadence, and we'll see how this goes. So this would be what, episode 66,
60,
technically
65, I think.
65. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so what Nick says.
I'll have to look that up. I'm pretty sure it's 65, though.
All right. Well, thanks for making it to the end, and until next time, Nick, what are some words of wisdom you can give the people?
Dogs like treats, but you shouldn't overuse them.
All right. I was hoping you'd go for like a weapon of choice or Christopher Walken thing, but all right, you just dropped
I
the
should
ball,
have
didn't you? You just
gone.
couldn't bring it back around.
Dang
Got it.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's
Dogs
where I get for getting my
like
hopes up.
dogs like treats.
All right. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.